Site24x7 is a cloud-based monitoring tool which can be leveraged to monitor the availability and performance of your critical IT resources. In today's webinar, we would be discussing the features of Site24x7 and also the wide spectrum of use cases that you can achieve using Site24x7. Before moving on with the product features and before discussing the product capabilities, I would like to introduce you to Zoho Corporation, which is the company behind the big three brands in this screen here, which are Manage Engine, Webnums, and Zoho itself. Zoho was started in the year 1996. Since that time, Zoho has created a lot of applications or business softwares to solve a wide variety of challenges that businesses face. For instance, many of the participants here would be familiar with Manage Engine products or even Zoho products like Zoho CRM, Zoho Disk, Zoho Mail, and Manage Engine's SDP. Likewise, Site24x7 is also a part of Zoho Corporation. Let me introduce you to Site24x7 and its features with this interesting case study. It turns out that most of the enterprises and medium-sized company tend to have multiple tools to tackle different challenges that they face with their IT environment. One of the main reasons for going with multiple tools is the lack of depth and width of the products. For example, you might be using a product called A for monitoring your websites, and you might be using a different product called B for monitoring the underlying infrastructure. This is because A lacks support for monitoring your infrastructure. This actually causes a very big challenge when you encounter an outage and when you want to analyze the data that is required to troubleshoot the issue. For instance, whenever an outage happens on your website, you would also want to analyze the performance of the underlying infrastructure. And if this data is going to be present in a different portal, then the analysis can become complicated. This is exactly the issue that Site24x7 would help you to resolve. Being a cloud-based monitoring solution, we have extensive support for monitoring your internet-facing components like websites, DNS servers, SSL certificates, and so on. Likewise, you can also add the underlying infrastructure, the respective applications, and the supporting platform components inside your same account, and you can get a comprehensive insight on the performance and availability of all these components. To summarize, I would say we have extensive support for the following. You can monitor your internet-facing resources like websites, SSL certificates, DNS servers, etc. using Site24x7. Likewise, you can monitor the real user experience. Infrastructures can be monitored. Your network components can be monitored. Your application and log management can also be achieved using the same Site24x7 subscription. On top of that, we also help you to gain your customers' trust by increasing your business transparency by offering features like status pages and custom dashboards. Let us start with Internet Services Monitoring. One of the most important aspects of Internet Services Monitoring is the ability to monitor from several global locations to make sure that your website or DNS server is accessible to your customers from different places in the world. To help you achieve this, we have our location servers in 110 plus global locations from where you can connect to your website or other components and check the uptime and performance of these components. And one of the key components of this internet services stack is the website. And I can say for sure, the last thing that we would want is our website being slow or down. Why is this the case? Because we don't want our customers to have any bad experience on our website, as it would have a very serious impact on our business. Let us see some interesting information or case studies on this. The companies mentioned here are not just enterprises. Just look at the names. They are all monster enterprises, and look at the kind of impact that even such enterprises face. It turns out that Google sees a decrease in 20% traffic whenever a search result is taking half a second extra. Similarly, Amazon says 40% of their customers bounce away whenever a page takes more than 3 seconds to get loaded. So this is the level of impact that client slowness can have on any business. And this is why proactive monitoring becomes very important. And to help you achieve the proactive monitoring, we have a collection of tools. I would like to start with the website monitoring, which would help you to check the website's availability from multiple global locations. In case if the website is found to be down from any one location, you will get an instantaneous notification with some information about the downtime, which would help you to troubleshoot the issue. Like this downtime report will contain details like the DNS analysis, trace route, net path analysis, etc. Here is an example of the net path analysis that we give to you whenever we find that your site is down. All that you have to do is add your website for monitoring and proactively do that from multiple global locations in Site24x7. And in case if your site happens to be down, you will get a root cause analysis report along with an alert for the downtime. The next challenge that users would be facing with a website is its performance. If your site takes about 10 seconds or 12 seconds to get loaded, that is equal to your site being down, as this will equally frustrate your customers. This is where the page speed monitor comes in. Using the page speed monitor, you can track the performance of your website on a proactive basis. You can load the web page completely and you can see which component is taking a lot of time to get loaded. On top of that, you can also get notifications if any of the object in your website is broken. Let's assume that your web company's logo is broken or some other critical elements in your website is broken. For such cases, if you have the web page speed monitor, you will get an instant notification whenever such a broken object is noted in your website's performance. And the next most important challenge that your customers would be facing on your website is the functionality. There might be some provisions for your customers to make some transactions on it. For example, if you are from a banking sector, you might have provided your customers with the option to log into the account and make payments to the credit card or even transfer money to a different account. And if these features are not working as expected, that will have a very big impact directly on your business. Likewise, if you are from academia background, and if you are having e-learning portals, and if you want to make sure that students are not having any issues in logging into the account, you can use the transaction monitor that we offer to monitor such critical transactions, and you can get notifications if these transactions are not available. All that you have to do is download and install the recorder tool in your computer and open this tool and start performing the transaction that you would like to monitor. For example, if your transaction is to log into an account and make a payment, you can open the recorder tool, log in to open your website, log into your account with some test credentials, and then select the credit card, proceed to the payment portal and stop the transaction. This sequence of actions, opening your website, logging into the account, selecting the credit card and making the payment, this sequence of action would be captured by the transaction recorder tool and would be added for monitoring. And Site24x7 will replay the same transaction from multiple global locations once in every 5 minutes to check if the transaction is available or not. In case if the transaction fails, you will get an instantaneous notification for it. And next important concern would be about your website's integrity. No one would want to enter a credential on a website that they don't trust. And similarly, no one would want to even provide their contact information on a website that they feel is not safe. This is why monitoring your website for defacements becomes very important. Using Site24x7's defacement monitor, you can check the integrity of your website and the crucial elements in it. For instance, you might want to get a notification whenever an image in your website is defaced or some anchor links in the website is defaced or even the script itself is modified. For those cases, you can use the defacement monitor and you can get notifications whenever any defacement is noted in the website or its crucial elements. Here is an example of root cause analysis report that I mentioned about. So you can get information about downtime in this report. For instance, the image here has some information like the screenshot of the website that we tried to load, the locations from where the site was found to be down. And on top of that, you will also get information like the DNS analysis, trace route, etc. Apart from monitoring your website, you can also monitor other internet-facing components like SSL certificates, DNS servers, SMTP servers, POP servers, and so on. So any such internet-facing components you have, you can very well add them for monitoring in Site24x7, and you can get notifications whenever there's an issue with their uptime or their performance. Next, we have real user monitoring. So before moving on with real user monitoring, I would like to confirm if there are any questions for me so far. Next is real user monitoring. Apart from proactively monitoring the website for its availability and performance, one would certainly want to understand how their customers feel when they use your website. After all, it's end user experience that matters the most, isn't it? So to help you with this piece of information, Site24x7 has the real user monitor. This monitor would help you to track the user's experience as they navigate through your website. To get started with real user monitor, you would have to generate a small JavaScript code from your Site24x7 account and then paste this code inside the website's HTML content. Once when this is completed, the real user monitor would start tracking each and every user's experience and would help you to understand the type of experience that people face from different perspectives. For example, is there any specific platform that your customers prefer when they try to connect to your site, or is there a specific version of browser that your customers regularly use to connect to your site, and do they use a specific ISP vendor? So all such granular information can be obtained using the real user monitor. To start with, I would say the summary page. The summary page would give you a comprehensive insight on the different geographical locations from where people are accessing your site and their satisfaction level from the geography perspective. So your site might be hosted in Europe, and hence you might expect that people from Europe should have a very good experience in terms of the page speed. Likewise, you can expect some sort of a slowness when people are accessing from Australia due to the distance factor. So you can validate all those analysis and insights, or you can validate all those information by using the real user monitor. It will help you to understand how people face, what kind of experience people have when they connect to your site from multiple global locations. Similarly, you can also monitor individual transactions, like after connecting to the site, what are the transactions that they are performing, and how often are they performing the transaction, and how good is the performance of the transaction. So transaction level monitoring is also supported. And whenever an user's experience is very bad, you would also get the browser traces, which would help you to nail down on the root cause of the issue. Next is APM Insight. The next most important component of your IT stack would be the application. Website slowness can also be due to a slow backend processing. Just imagine how many visitors your website would be having on the eve of Christmas or during the Black Friday. And if your application becomes slow due to heavy load, this will create a very big impact directly on your revenue and business. To help you identify such performance issues, we have the APM Insight Monitor, which would give you insights on the performance of your application when it is being accessed in real time. This is an agent-based monitoring tool, and this is platform-based monitoring, where you have to download the agent depending on the framework of your application and install it on the respective machine. Once when the agent installation is completed, your application will get added for monitoring. And once when this is done, you would be able to get a comprehensive insight on all the database operations that your application performs. So you might be curious to know if there are any database operations that are generally slow. For instance, there might be certain operations like updating a database, which might take a lot of time as compared to other operations like deleting an entry. So you can understand the performance of your application from the database perspective, which will give you a clear insight on whether there is any slowness in the application when the application is performing a specific operation. And also you can see on an average how many number of times a specific operation was performed. Similarly, you can identify slow running queries using traces. So if you want to understand why the slowness happened, was it due to an external call, or was it due to a SQL database update, or was it due to some native system code? The traces would help you with the answer to those questions. Any trace would give you insights like the slowest methods that were called during the transaction, the number of times the method was called, and also the trace details will give you timestamp level information, like at which particular timestamp the flow of control went inside a function, and how long did the flow of control spend time inside the function, and so on. This would help you to essentially nail down on the problem or the slowness of the transaction. And the APM would also help you to catch exceptions and pinpoint errors as and when they occur. So if you are curious to know what are the top caught handled and unhandled exceptions that are encountered in the backend, the exceptions section of the APM Insight would have the answer to your question. You can also get information like the recently encountered exceptions along with the recently encountered error codes. And we do have an interesting option where you can integrate the APM Insight with the real user monitor. So the idea behind this integration is to make sure that you're able to correlate the real-time front-end performance information captured by the real user monitor with the corresponding performance of the application captured by the APM Insight monitor. Essentially, you can compare the response time of your website from the browser's perspective along with the response time of your application during the same time frame, and see if there are any slowness specific to front-end or back-end processing. So this is about the APM Insight. Next, we have mobile APM monitoring, using which you can monitor your mobile applications. So if you have a mobile application, for example, if you are from the banking sector, and if you might have mobile applications using which your customers perform transactions, like they might be logging into the account, making some payments and other things. And if you want to track how good your application's performance is and how satisfied the customers are when they use your mobile application, you can use our mobile APM to get this. And in fact, this mobile APM could also give you crash analytics, which means whenever your application crashes due to some exceptions, you would be able to get stack trace and more information about it using the mobile APM. Next, we have the infra monitoring. But again, before moving on with the infra monitoring, I would like to confirm if there are any questions. We have infra monitoring. So you might have different types of infrastructure, like your infra might be completely on cloud or completely on premise, or it could be a mix of both on-prem and cloud. So whatever kind of infrastructure you have, Site24x7 has a perfect solution for you. We have support for monitoring your cloud environment, on-premise environment, virtual machine environment, and even hybrid environment. Let's start with server monitoring. In Site24x7, we have agent-based server monitoring, where you can download and install the agent on the respective machine that needs to be monitored. When this task is completed, this agent that you are installing on your machine will take the responsibility of monitoring your server for its availability and performance. And this is how the monitoring works. This is the monitoring architecture. So let us say you have, this is one of your branch office and you have a couple of machines. One is Windows and other one is Linux. And if you install the respective agent on the machine, this agent will collect information about your server, like the performance of it and the availability of it. And the collected data will be sent to Site24x7 Cloud using a one-way HTTPS connection. The biggest advantage with this type of monitoring is the remote monitoring capability that it offers. If you have multiple branches across the world where you have a lot of servers, and if your management is looking for a centralized monitoring solution, you can very well leverage Site24x7. You can install the agent on each and every server present in different places across the world, and all these agents will be mapped to the same account, which can be accessed from anywhere across the world. To get started with, these are the performance data that the agent would give. So you can expect information like the memory utilization, disk information, CPU usage, and network traffic information at the server level. On top of that, you can also achieve process monitoring. If you're running some important services or processes on your server, and if you want to get a notification whenever the service goes down, you can very well do that using the process monitoring. You can simply click on discover service and process, select the services that needs to be added for monitoring, and get notification whenever they go down. Similarly, you can also monitor the critical resources on your machine. For instance, you might want an alert whenever an event is encountered in the event log of your machine, or let's say someone deletes a file from your machine. So such resource validation can also be done using the server agent that you're installing on your server. And the agent can also be used for log management as well. So let me give an example to emphasize the significance of this feature. If you're hosting your application on 10 different servers, and if your application crashes, the first thing that you would be doing to analyze the issue is to analyze the logs of the application. But since you're running the application on 10 instances, you would have to log into each of the machine, and then you would have to analyze the logs. This by itself is a very tedious process and time consuming task. To help you handle such cases, we have centralized log management where you can provide the agent that you're installing on the server with required information and permissions to upload the logs. Once when this permission is given, the agent would be able to upload all the logs to Site24x7 cloud, which means if something goes wrong, you don't have to log into each and every individual machine. Instead, you can simply log into your account, construct the query, and see the result of the query then and there. And we have out-of-the-box support for some of the commonly used applications like Microsoft IaaS, Cassandra database, Apache, etc. And we also support cron monitoring. So if you're actively using cron jobs in your company to schedule backups, and if you're concerned about their failures, you can use the cron monitor and get notified in case if the job fails or even if the job is taking a lot of time to get executed. And we have plugin integration supported, and also we do support Microsoft applications monitoring. In fact, plugins is a very interesting way using which you can achieve custom metrics. Here is one interesting case study or use case that one of our customers had, which they solved using the plugins monitoring. One of our customers wanted to monitor their vending machine and get notifications whenever the machine went out of stock or whenever the machine was not responding. We suggested them to write a small script which will connect to the machine and check the status of the machine. Till today, they are very happy with the solution, and in fact, they are proactively monitoring the stock on the vending machine, and they are able to refill the stock before it expires, before it gets exhausted. Likewise, you might have a lot of other custom requirements like monitoring your Cassandra database, monitoring your Tomcat application server, or monitoring your Hadoop setup, and so on. So you would be able to find out-of-the-box plugins for some of the common use cases like monitoring your MySQL, Tomcat, Kafka, etc. And if your requirement is very unique and if you're not able to find an out-of-the-box plugin for your requirement, you can very well create your own plugin. We support several scripting languages like Python, Shell, Batchfile, DLL, etc. So you just need to select your preferred language and get started with coding this plugin for you. And we also have Microsoft applications monitoring supported. I would say we have support for the following applications. We have support for failover clusters, IaaS, BizTalk, Exchange Server, SharePoint applications, etc. And in case if you happen to be into the big data analysis domain, and if you want to monitor some of your big data resources like Hadoop environment and keep track of your Apache Zookeeper, we have an out-of-the-box support for such big data resources as well. Next, we move on to cloud monitoring, and I would like to start with AWS monitoring. But before that, again, I would like to confirm if there are any questions. In Site24x7, you can very well integrate your AWS subscription, and monitor each and every component of your subscription. For instance, we have support for monitoring your Redshift, Elastic load balancers, SNS topics, classic load balancers, EC2 instances, Dynamo DBs, and so on. All that you have to do is integrate your Site 24/7 account with your AWS subscription. Once when this is completed, any of the resource that is mentioned in this page here would be added for monitoring, and you would be able to get a comprehensive insight on their availability and performance. This leverages the power of CloudWatch APIs to collect all the information. And you would be able to see an inventory dashboard like this, where you can see the number of resources added and the different dates on which they were added. So if you want to know how many resources were added last month, you can simply go to the inventory dashboard and see the number of resources added on any given month, and even you can get the split up of resources. Like out of 53 resources last month, how many of them were EC2 instances and how many were Dynamo DBs. So such granular information would be available to you in the inventory dashboard. And you can go beyond CloudWatch and obtain OS level monitoring using our server agent. You can install our server agent on your EC2 instance and get OS level metrics. For example, if you want to monitor the memory utilization of your EC2 instance, and also if you want to monitor the MySQL database on it, you can very well install the agent on your EC2 instance and use the MySQL plugin to get all the relevant information. And you can complement your AWS monitoring by also tracking your spendings on AWS cloud using the Site 24/7 cloud spend. So you can very well integrate your AWS account into cloud spend, and you can understand how much on an average your company is spending on AWS cloud on a month by month basis. So you might have, as a company, you might have one subscription with AWS and several sub teams in your organization might be using the same account. And hence you might want to know what's the contribution made by different teams in terms of usage. You can very well define business units, and you would be able to even define thresholds for these business units, and you will get an instant notification whenever a team is exhausting the allowed limit for the month. And next is Azure monitoring. You can integrate your Azure subscription in Site 24/7, and you can add all the components inside the subscription. Once when this is completed, you would be able to see the performance and availability of all these Azure components in the health dashboard. And at the virtual machine level, we'll give you information like CPU credits remaining and network information. And you can also install the server agent on your Azure VM, and you can get OS level information for your virtual machines. And Site 24/7 also supports Docker monitoring. In fact, we are an official member of the Docker Partner Program. You can install our Docker agent on your Dockers and get insights about the containers and the images of the container. And also you can perform some management actions like starting the container and stopping it, on top of getting some performance data like CPU consumption and memory usage. Site 24/7 has an interesting feature called IT automation, using which you can remediate corrective measures. For example, whenever the server goes down, you might want to restart the server once and see if this is fixing the issue, or you might want to create a ticket for that, or you might want to run a script and create a new server. So such remediations can be automated using Site 24/7's IT automation. All that you have to do is define the condition and define the action that needs to be taken during the condition, and associate this setup to a specific monitor, which means if this condition is met by the server of yours or by any other monitor, the relevant remediation will be automatically taken. For example, you can even clear backups or restart a service or stop a server and so on using the IT automations. Site 24/7 also supports monitoring your on-premise resources. If there are some resources that are not exposed to the outside world, you can still monitor them using Site 24/7. That's where the on-premise poller comes in. So using the on-premise poller, you would be able to monitor all those resources that are not exposed to the outside world. This is the working architecture of the on-premise poller. So let's say you have a couple of branch offices, 1 and 2, and if there are some resources in each of the branch offices that are not exposed to the outside world, You can install the on-premise Polar on the respective branches, and the Polar will then connect to your internal resources, gather information about their performance and availability, and will send that information to Site 24/7 using a one-way HTTPS connection. This way, you can easily achieve remote monitoring of your internal components. You can leverage the Polar extensively and monitor your virtual environment, namely the VMware environment and your SNMP-based network monitors. When it comes to VMware monitoring, you can monitor the resource utilization that happens across data centers, clusters at the virtual machine level. So once when you add the vCenter for monitoring, we will discover all the associated ESX hosts and the virtual machines, and we will also find out the cluster in which they are connected, and you would be able to see the performance of each and every component of the entire stack. At the virtual machine level, we'll give you information like the memory utilization, disk information, network traffic information, CPU consumption, etc. And when it comes to SNMP monitoring, you can monitor any device that supports SNMP, which could be a router, switch, firewall, or even a custom device. So any device that supports SNMP can be added for monitoring using the on-premise Polar. The Polar will connect to the device using SNMP, get information about the device and its performance, and will display it in your Site 24/7 console. Once when the devices are added, you can also create a topology map to to depict the topology of your network, and you would be able to get status updates on the different links on a real-time basis. And we also have anomaly reporting, which is powered by artificial intelligence, which would help you to highlight and find out if there are any anomalies or outliers noted in the performance of your resources. So here is an anomaly dashboard where you can see the different anomalies recognized for different components in your account. For example, if you're adding your website for monitoring, and if there is an abnormal spike in the response time of your website, this would be flagged as an anomaly event, and the information about the anomaly would be shown in this place here. Likewise, you would be able to get all the anomalies reported for different monitors during the selected time frame, and you would be able to correlate the events to see if one anomaly could have resulted in another one. Site 24/7 also has an inbuilt incident management tool called as the alarms view, using which you can get insights on different alerts that were triggered during the selected time frame. And in fact, you can assign these alerts to different technicians in your account so that they can get started with fixing these issues. The moment you assign an alert to a user, the user will get an instantaneous notification through email regarding the assignment. And we have NOC dashboard, which can be utilized by your network team or even your operations team to get the current status of different servers and other critical resources in your Site 24/7 account. Likewise, you can use custom dashboards, and you can share information about the availability and performance of critical components of your Site 24/7 account with your end customers. So this can also be restricted based on IP for access. And we have business view, which would help you to understand the relationship between different components in your IT stack. Say, for example, if you're adding the website along with the server that's hosting your website and the databases for monitoring, you can create a group like this, and you would be able to understand the correlation between the different components that build up your IT stack. In Site 24/7, alerting the right person through right medium is very simple. We have alerting through different mediums supported. We have alerting through SMS, phone call, and email. Along with that, you can also install our mobile application and get an instantaneous push notification. On top of that, we also support integration with a lot of third-party services, which are quite commonly used. For example, we have support for integration with Slack, PagerDuty, Zapier, Microsoft Teams, and so on. Likewise, for ticketing systems from ticketing systems perspective, we have support for integration with ServiceNow, Manage Engines, SDP, etc. And if you are using a different tool which is not listed here, you can still integrate your tool with Site 24/7 using webhooks. Connectivity on the go. You can very well install our mobile application in your smartphone and get a quick update whenever your monitor goes down. Or if you want to analyze the root cause analysis of a downtime, you can very well do it from your mobile phone itself. And also, if you want to check the status of your servers, you can very well go to the custom dashboard and have a look at the current status of all the servers in your account. So these are all some of the actions that one can do from the mobile application of Site24x7, and this is supported for both Android and iOS-based smartphones. And you can further increase your business transparency by sharing the health status of your service with your customers using the Site24x7 Status IQ. So using the status pages or the Status IQ, you would be able to constantly keep your customers updated on the status of your service. And if you're expecting some service interruptions in the upcoming days, you can very well make that as an announcement to your customers so that once when they access the status page, they would get a quick insight about the service interruption that is about to happen. Here are a few points regarding the security aspects of Site24x7. We are ISO certified, we are SOC 2 certified, we are GDPR compliant, and we have data centers in important regions across the world. For example, we have dedicated data centers for US, Europe, China, and India, and we also have one in Australia, which was activated quite some time back. I'm sure it has been a very long webinar. So one important question that anyone would have in this, any participant would have is, why should I prefer Site24x7, or what are the value added features of Site24x7? So here are some points that I jotted down to quickly summarize the value added features. I would like to start with the global locations. So Site24x7 has about 100 plus global locations across the world, from where you can monitor your websites and other critical components and get notified whenever they are not accessible. And that too, this monitoring of websites can be done at a minimum frequency of 1 minute. And if you have a different type of infrastructure on cloud, on-prem, and hybrid, you would still be able to use the same subscription and monitor it. So we are a hybrid monitoring solution. You can group monitors together, and also we support multi-tenancy. And we are a full stack monitoring tool, and we do have a perfect way to get insights on how the users feel when they access your site using the real user monitor. On top of that, we are SOC 2 certified with GDPR compliance, and we support single sign-on with two-factor authentication. So these are all some of the value-added points of Site24x7. And here is a quick insight on our pricing. We have a subscription-based model, which means you can pay as you go. If you want to start with the starter plan for now, and then if you have plans to upgrade it to the enterprise or enterprise plus down the line, you are most welcome to do that. Or the other way around is also possible. You might want to start with classic, and then you might want to downsize it based on your requirements. You can very well do it. And here is a very short list of customers of Site24x7 who use Site24x7 on a day-to-day basis. We have customers from different verticals and of different size. For example, we have Apple, Intel, NASA, Juniper, Cisco, Ford Direct, GoDaddy. So these are all some of the customers who are using Site24x7 on a day-to-day basis for tackling the problems that they face with their IT environment. And here is Site24x7's social presence. So we are active on some of the commonly used social media platforms like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, G+, etc. And we do have our own blogs and community page where you can get information on the upcoming features and ongoing discussions and issues. And if you want to get more information about a specific feature of Site24x7, I would say the help documents, knowledge base articles, and forums would be the best place to get started with. And if any of the participants here happens to be a paid customer of Site24x7, and if you want to enrich your team with the product capabilities, you can very well opt for a training and implementation program as well. You can reach out to our support team or sales team for any technical or commercial questions through 3 different modes. We support you through email, phone call, and chat. So this brings us to the end of today's webinar. So if you have any feedbacks or product queries, you can feel free to drop them as an email to support, or if you have any sales concerns, just drop an email to sales team. And if you have any questions for me right now regarding the webinar, please feel free to shoot those questions using the chat portal. I would be happy to answer them.